Hi and welcome for the workshop of SUSE QE Tools this week. We do not have one big predefined topic, but we can have multiple individual topics that we can talk about. For a start, I would like to show three new minor, but what I consider quite helpful and cool features related to openqa. And then afterwards we can discuss these features or also others. And also I would be interested if you have some, maybe tricky test failures to share, which we can discuss together. So the features which I want to present in particular this time is we had one change in the openqa-review reports, which now make it look maybe not fancy, but readable. So on openqa, I also SUSE QE for SUSE internal employees. There are multiple reports and all of them can be configured. And there's one in particular, which is the to-do only report. And that one has now proper headers. So this is showing the job group headers. And then below the job group headers, you have individual job failures. So all jobs that fail and do not yet have any bug reference or label, they are showing here. So see this as a to-do list. And depending on your personal preferences and your team's working scope, you can follow the links and review and label the according jobs. So for example, here it says containers, latest host, engines, and tools Docker. I assume this is the scope. There is pretty clear that if in doubt, if there's not anyone else reviewing that, then there's the squad for containers taking care. Also, what you cannot see directly here in the shared screen, because I'm sharing the browser view, so what you don't see, that there's also a pop-up telling you which module failed. So here is actually boot to desktop that fails. So also the people like the QE core team that would maybe take care of the boot to desktop module can say I'm reviewing all the boot to desktop failures regardless of the test scenario and regardless of the job group. Are there any comments or questions about this to-do only report? Or maybe let's make a quick sound check, because there seems to be some problem. So who can hear me?
Yeah, clearly.
Clearly.
Cool.
Yes. Check.
Yep. That's a lot. Sounds good. Chris, thank you for taking care that other people are also getting on board for that. So is there any feedback regarding this to-do only page? Like anybody that has used it so far? Maybe you have tried to use it and then you already said like, nah, it's not for me because maybe it's missing certain features.
Can you filter by group IDs as well?
Now this is a static page. You cannot filter directly here. But just to show you here what is possible, there are other reports. So there's, let me see. We have the internal GitLab project. This is not for the source code of openqa-review, but only for the CI jobs that generate these reports. And there's a YAML document here, which should be pretty easy to understand. And if you like, and you would like to have additional reports, for example, here we have since years, actually, we have for the former QA sleeve functional team, which is now more or less QE core, we have this special report, which just filters sleeve 15 functional job group. And we have the equivalent for Just. So yeah, if you're saying I want this and this and this job group and a certain report, create a merge request and add it here, and then a new specific report would show up for you. Would that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, would it be okay that each team has, their own report page, for example?
We have to see how much that scales. We already saw that generating a lot of reports can cause quite some load, but I would say yes, if you're interested to do that, do this. And if we do have problem with scalability, then we will take care that this is scalable, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Right. Of course, there are alternatives. So let's switch over to the next topic, which is, oops, sorry, not this view, the next feature. So filter test results on tests or test overview by regex match in modules. So let me show you this. We can go to an openqa test overview page. So this is a pure openqa feature. And within here, you might know already that there's this filter box, and it says click to toggle filter form. So you can click there and then see. I see a good idea from Anton in chat. We should probably update the links that we have on the index page. Let's see. Yeah, so no, actually we have it already. So Anton, actually the answer to you would be we don't have a link here in the operator menu, but what we do have is at the bottom. There we have multiple links, and one link is to daily openqa-review reports. If you follow the link.
Oh, that's okay.
Wow, I never realized we had those.
Yes, they are just a bit discreet down there.
Yeah, right. I mean, the point is that for newcomers, like first-time visitors of that page, they should really be able to find more information. Like, what is this? Okay, so
there's no problem.
Right.
Just wanted a link somewhere.
Yeah, but of course we can tweak both. So this is also a site-specific setup. Yeah. So in our salt state repo, you can propose a merge request to update that. So special present, there's one task that's left to do to update the chat channel message. So whoever comes first receives a +1 from me in a merge request.
So were you saying salt? Isn't this done in a template somewhere, or where do this come from?
Exactly. So we have the salt states repository, which creates a very simple template, which is then rendered into this page. Okay. So it's an openqa feature that this box can be branded, as well as the footer down here. So to just give you an example of how else it could look like, you see this is GNOME openqa, and they are the sponsor of this instance. So this is why there's GNOME, and you can click, and then you come to the GNOME page, and here you have just a link to the generic openqa documentation. And internal, that's the SUSE QE code. And external, we have SUSE as the sponsor of the OpenSUSE instance. But this is different. So this is just a link to the official upstream documentation. And we do not have any footer for all three because we're not linking to the same internal report. So, there could be something else that we could link to if we want any of them. Now back to the filter on the test overview page. So previously we already had the checkboxes to filter, results and state, architecture, flavor, machines, test, and also modules. And now what we have I mean, granted, the description is not perfect. This is one of the next tasks that we want to improve, to just make sure that people understand what's the difference here. And actually, there's a lot of difference. So what you can put into here in test module, sorry, let me start from the left. What you could put in here is the name of test modules. Like, for example, I could say boot to desktop. And then I would see all the tests. Wait, do I need to select the result? Actually, I don't know how that works.
Oli, this is the bug which we have. You will not see anything here.
Oh, so this is the regression, which is then for this build. I mean, fine, because I followed the manual link. Yeah. So let's do it properly. We have the web UI. And then what we see is build results. I go to the test overview link, and then I see the latest build. And if I put boot to desktop here, then I see all the scenarios which run this module. Okay. I don't think it fails anywhere. So what I could do is I could say kdump and crash. So show me all tests that run kdump and crash. And I see 2, and in both cases it failed. So yeah, okay, it doesn't really help that much, but I could say show me all where kdump and crash passes, and there are none. But instead, if I look for all tests that have that module and fail, you see this. And yes, there's also the to-do checkbox, so we could combine it and say, show me all where kdump and crash fails, and we actually still need to review. And there are none, meaning that, okay, it does fail, but in both cases, you see we have a bug link here. And now the next box, and this is where we can put any regular expression, like maintainer or course, and then it would show me all the jobs where there are modules inside which are maintained by me. Okay. And now this is a bit tricky because we cannot yet combine it in that way, and it's not exactly clear how to use this result. So it's an early phase where we say the main tricky part, which we want to have solved, is that we actually can query the test module results. What we do there is we call git grep in the file system, which is actually pretty quick. So yeah, that's a start. Anton?
Yeah, may I give you a small suggestion regarding this? So I find it a bit confusing with the current implementation with 2 edit boxes for basically filter by the same by the same entity, but just differently. So instead, what I would recommend is having as one edit box as it was before with name module, and then just a checkbox which switching input from normal to regex. Then it would be clear that you're still filtering by the module, but because currently it's module and test module. When I come to this filter, it's like it's freeze me because it's like module, test module. What's going on?
You're right, it's not good, but your suggestion has a flaw that actually it is different, because in the left-hand side we filter by, we look in the name, like only the file name, okay? In the right-hand side, we actually take a look into the source code. So there's no test module which has maintainer codes in the name, but we actually take a look into the source file of all thousands of modules.
Okay, I see. Then I don't know. Maybe you at least need to add this question mark thingy exactly to this field with the proper explanation.
I mean,
maybe you should actually say source there. Maybe that would be clearer.
Content could be source, could be that we actually want to also, if it just says module, we say module name. Yeah, we have to think about that. But also, it's not just about the string. It's also actually about the the use cases and the flows. So what I envision here is that we can say, you know, one of the use cases that came from you guys is show me all jobs that need review where I'm responsible. I'm responsible maybe is different per person, per squad, per team, per department, per company, and so on, how you would like to define that. But I figured that coming up with the regex, taking a look into the source code could already cover a lot of generic cases, because then everyone, you know, we already have the maintainer field within test distribution source code, and we can easily add comments into files to come up with a convention, and then we can work based on that convention. Okay, so let's say who has a good idea for another example, what we could try to search for. How about, yeah, for example, LibreOffice not that good. Let's say zipper. Okay, because there might be a test module which is called zipper, but zipper is used in many test modules. So by doing that, now we can find that we have many tests where likely there is no test module which is called zipper, or doesn't even have zipper in the name. Yeah, okay. I know the Tumbleweed page is boring to review because OpenSUSE release managers and release engineers are doing such an awesome job to have it all properly reviewed. But I think you get the idea.
I think I just realized one a bit tricky use case which you most probably not cover,
Okay.
but still. In my understanding, you would just simply search the file system on openqa server, right? So now imagine when you have like a bunch of jobs which use a different case dirs. And
Yes.
you would basically fool the user, because you would show like let's say a maintainer occurs, but I created a pull request where I rename all maintainers occurs to
Right.
Let's say Anton Smorodsky, but you would still show me all these modules as they are contain this thing.
That's right. Yeah. So the outlook for that is that we want to, in the future, better support from the web UI perspective the handling of custom case directories, or let's say properly version control directories. This is where in we have one Saga for that, which is not included in our current set. Yeah, so we needed to delay that Saga, and let's see if we list all. It would be this one, 58184, the full version control awareness within openqa. Right now, what perfectly works is that you just run the actual test from a custom Git checkout, right? But this happens only on the worker, and the results are presented to the web UI, and also we can, you know, in the job details, if you click on the source code link, you would actually take a look into Git instead. So we do have some handling where we can look up remote Git repositories. So maybe we can also port that feature in a way that we don't call git grep in a local file system, but you know, whenever we find, oh, there's custom case here, same as we do for the lookup of source file, we would call, you know, the equivalent on a remote repository. But this Saga is to streamline the overall experience, to say, let's say that you start from the beginning till the end, and you have that version control awareness. Okay. So in short, I see it feasible to even implement it short term. I wouldn't plan to do that right now because we have that Saga, and I hope that we come back to that and put more effort and focus on this again. And if we do this, then we can do it, you know, properly through the complete pipeline. So are there more questions or ideas about the test module content search? Okay, fine. Then the third feature which I would like to show right now is the automatic replacement of openqa job URLs preview. So what we can see is, let's see, I'm looking for investigate jobs. So all the jobs which are automatically triggered, and you can see, for example, some are running right here. So let's just pick the first one. And so this is an investigate job. It had been triggered automatically based on another job that failed and where there was no label carryover and no known bug yet. It's currently running, just started a minute ago, so it's still checking out the source code. So this is why there's no picture yet visible. We have a link back to the original job that needs the investigation, which failed 9 hours ago, and then these investigation jobs had been triggered. And then in the comments, there was already a link to the triggered job, but what you can see now is that you have a preview of the current results of the job. So you don't actually need to follow the URLs anymore, but immediately you get the overview. So here you can see that 2 are scheduled and 2 are currently running. Going back, let's see if we find an older one, like this one. That one finished a day ago. I'm going back to the original job that needed investigation, and here you can see 2 failed results and 2 soft failed results. And now that should immediately give you some idea of where does the failure come from. Who wants to make a guess? So the job failed. Was it because of a test regression? Was it because of a product regression? Was it because of some sporadic issue that always existed? Or was it maybe some temporary network issue? What do you think? So Anton, yep, make a guess.
The test with the higher number succeeded, I think, if I count right.
What do you mean with the test with the high number?
The tests with the higher number succeeded, like 798, 799. So I guess the newer ones, it automatically got fixed. So it was a sporadic.
Okay, who has some other?
It was not sporadic. Sorry, I was confused. So a product bug.
Well, why do you say it's likely a product bug?
Because the older builds succeed.
Exactly. Yeah. So we triggered the tests with the current test code. So the same test code as the one that failed, but with the last build, and it succeeded. And also, if we go back with the test codes and the last build, then it succeeds. So it's pretty reliably succeeding when we go back with the build. If we retry, it consistently fails. And if we retry, even going back to the test code of the last good build, it still fails. So yeah, because it's the new build that fails. So yeah, product regression, exactly.
You just re-triggered also an old build?
Sorry, say again?
To the script re-triggers also an old build?
Yes.
This is big assumption, no?
Well,
like
we have the build 1335, okay? And
Yeah.
so this is Krypton. It's an ISO. So here the situation might be a bit easier because we know that it's basically the ISO, yeah, and not much relying on any kind of repository which we don't have under control. So it's just that ISO which we test. This is why we can consistently say, if we go back to the old build, which means the according ISO file, which we still need to have on openqa, then we can have a pretty good estimate if that works. Of course, for various reasons, it could also fail in the last good build because, you know, by now, I don't know, maybe the asset was deleted, then it would be incomplete, or we could have it that it's always failing because it's relying on an external mirror and the problem is there. So yeah, all that could happen. So
It
Janis,
can
did
be
you
also this.
understand?
No, what I'm trying to say is like that you waste resources, but the results are not. You can have a very good estimation of if it's a bug or because the test can be wrong, so the whole build is gonna fail again. So you waiting for nothing pretty much. The team knows better, like, and usually the results are not so, let's say, tidy and neat. You can leave some build messy and wait for the next one to take results actually.
Yes, of course, it depends. This is why these investigation jobs are always delayed as long as there are other jobs queued. So, you know, the idea was that the investigation jobs only take idle resources. So we are investing a bit of energy with the potential cost saving in human review. So, you know, this is what I think is much more important. Of course, if you as a human reviewer are even faster to know exactly what the thing is, then you would not need that. But a lot of people want to go away from manual, tedious review work. Okay, Marita, go ahead. You raise your hand.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say maybe you can write a description very quickly what that means, because I mean, I have not seen this for the first time, but I was pretty confused what the last good tests and build, I mean, what that means. Maybe write it somewhere, or when you mouse over, having one sentence, or I don't know, at the bottom or anywhere. Short, very short description.
Yes, a good idea. I think what we could do is maybe a link to a page which describes in more details and maybe some examples. Explain that.
Fine for me as well, yeah.
Yeah, good idea. Okay, so something more about that feature and the preview of job results? Seems like no further questions or comment there. Okay, so thanks. This was what I wanted to present, more or less 10 minutes each for 3 individual features that we have recently finished. So thanks a lot to the members of the SUSE QE Tools team who implemented this. Now, what else would you like to discuss or present or ask about? Floor is yours.
Maybe short question about automatic carryover. What is the current logic? Because I'm not sure if has changed recently. How it's currently working in group description.
There was no change in that logic for years, so it's still the same. It's looking at the module results, so it's not just the overall job status, but is not looking at the specific steps. So, you know, you have individual steps in the job module results. So that, I think it was an idea that maybe you even suggested some years ago, if we could do that to make it more specific. So it's not looking into that because, you know, maybe sometimes you have some kind of loop and you're doing a search screen or check screen in loop, and it could be that sometimes it takes 5 steps, sometimes it takes 7 steps to come to the same issue. On the module level, what is done is that all the modules are included. So if I'm not mistaken, then it should work like that if there's, let's say, one and only one module failing, and in a subsequent job, the same one and only one module is failing, then a label carryover would happen. If there would be another module failing in before, then there would be no label carryover happening because, you know, then you would maybe hide that there is a new bigger issue which happens even earlier. So this is where a human reviewer would need to take a look on the first issue and then know from the history that the second module failure is already known.
And what about the depths? How many jobs in the past are checked?
So for that, I would need to take a look into the source code. So let's do that right now. No, I think I can do that. And then there are two important parameters here. One is, let's see, is it called carryover maybe? No. Oops, no, not. Oh, yeah. So here you can see that within this file, let's see, can I put master here? So there are relevant module results for carryover evaluation, where we're currently looking for belt, soft belt, or none. And then we have failure reason, and yeah, here you go. So there's the depth of 10, meaning that we would look into the history of up to 10 jobs, and which excludes incomplete. So if there are incompletes in the middle, let's say there was some more severe underlying problem in the infrastructure, then these are ignored. This doesn't stop the carryover, but it would be like normally passed or failed. Yeah, up to 10 it looks backward, and there's a state change limit of 3, meaning that, let's say it fails once and then the next job passes and then it fails again, then label carryover would still work over the past. So, you know, it does not have to completely consistently fail all the time.
And what about if there is like several differences? It will just pick up the oldest one, the youngest one.
Yes. Yeah. So what we do is we walk over the list of previous jobs, and this is sorted from youngest to oldest. Or you could say, because, you know, every job ID is consistently increasing, going from highest number to lowest.
Okay, thank you.
So, anything else by anyone? Or maybe you have some cool hard nuts to crack, some interesting failed results that you have seen recently, where you say either maybe you found out the problem already and you would like to challenge others, they understand the same, or where you don't know yet what the problem is, something from your real life. There are no failures. Everything crystal clear. Marita?
I have a question actually. If when you write new test cases and then the default priority is 50, right? Do you understand this correct?
The default priority for all job groups in general is 50. Yes, correct.
So I was wondering if people are aware of this and if they think about it, or if they just reuse it, or if some people to change it on purpose. I guess we have more and more with priority 50 because people add stuff and just leave the number, right? Do you understand this correctly? I guess so.
I assume so.
Yeah.
How is it from everybody? So who does change job priorities?
The admin, the admin people.
Well, you can also do that per job group. So, for example, in a job group, you could say, let me see if we find that. So you see that the default priority for Tumbleweed is 49, meaning that any job that is in this job group, which doesn't have yet another specific overridden priority, that any job here is preferred because it has a lower priority number, meaning that it's not delayed over the default. What you then can do in the job template settings themselves is that you can also set a priority in there, and you can also override it on the individual scenarios level, which you can see here. For example, it was decided that the GNOME Live media receive a higher priority. Maybe Dimstar is the main OpenSUSE Tumbleweed release manager, uses that as a really early feedback indicator to see like, yeah, okay, something is broken before we run the main bunch load of tests. So maybe more interested in that. Oh, actually, okay, I see that the net installer has in text mode and KDE priority 40, and then UEFI 45 for GNOME. So someone thinks KDE is more important than GNOME here.
What happens if you put -10 or something?
Yeah, actually, good question. 0 is not any limit. So you can go down from 45, 40, 30, 20, 10, 0, -10. You can go on.
Actually, priorities generally, it's pretty huge topic, and there is no easy answer here, but I think at some point we need to find one. Because like, I don't know, one or 2 months ago, I did a query by priorities.
Yes.
I think Jose raised this in some meeting.
Correct.
The findings which I did, and it's I would say it's pretty scary for me what people are doing with priorities, and we need to probably find some sane algorithm how people behave here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I was just wondering if people are aware of this. Yeah, Jose raised this. There is a ticket open, but nobody has ever discussed this. Actually, one main thing would be, in my opinion, that the staging area should go first, and then I think critical maintenance issues should go second. Third would be maybe product cure, or maybe regular maintenance ones. That would be equal. Yeah. Many years ago, there was an oral agreement. I don't think that most of you remember this. It was maybe 5 years ago or so, or 3. Yeah, but we should redefine this. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think we also had a ticket about that where we discussed this regarding QA SLE and QA maintenance. I think normally it really is not a problem. It's more a problem within the individual groups, or let's say, how do we prioritize QA, SLE maintenance, incident versus aggregates tests? So this is one thing where, you know, we are competing for the same resources, sometimes at the same time. So there it really applies to select good values. And in many other cases, we have to keep in mind that the priority only applies if we are actually competing for the very same resource, okay? If it's about a different architecture, we would have different workers anyway. If we have additional implicit dependencies, like we have an image creation job and then some downstream jobs that load the image, we need to run the image creation job first anyway. There, of course, it is useful to give these specific scenarios which create, let's say there is one basic installation job which does the installation of a new build, and then this one is used in 1000 downstream jobs. Then it certainly makes sense to give that one specific test suite, so not a group, but the test suite, the according priority, so that, you know, we do the installation first and then the other jobs can pick up. And one more thing I'd like to show here, first, Yanis, on.
About the priority, I asked the other time if the default for the retry is actually 150, right?
The default for retry should be just the same as the original job.
No.
But what you can see here is that the investigate jobs, they are triggered with original job priority plus 100. Yeah.
Yeah. The answer was so that to not consume the resources and stuff, which means that in some groups this will never run, right? Because if it waits for very long, a new build comes in, so it doesn't make sense to have it.
That might happen in exceptions. I would say if you have that problem that you're not able to normally execute the jobs, then I think you're reloading overloading the available resources anyway. So my idea was that, I mean, the general expectation is that only a small ratio of the jobs that run are actually failing, right? Let's say in a bad case, 20% of jobs are failing, okay? Out of the 20%, in a bad case, only 10% should actually need a review, right? And out of this 10%, if you're doing good, you're using auto review to automatically catch the issue, which might be known from other places. So, you know, doing regex matching on the log. And only if this fails, if all of that fails, then you would have a new unknown issue where we would trigger these investigation jobs. So let's say you start with 1,000 jobs and you end up with 10 jobs that actually are unknown and need investigation. So you would trigger another 40 jobs. So it's only a small portion. So if you end up with 1,000 of investigation jobs, you have a real problem with stability of your tests anyway. It's not about resources, it's about your tests are really unstable. And if you're really at the end to say we do not have that many investigation jobs, but even they are always obsoleted or blocked, I would say you do not have enough buffer overall in resources. So, you know.
Take a breath. Open the link that I said. I haven't gone right now through all of them, but you can see that many builds have skip.
Right.
Right. Like.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Then this is a real problem. It might be a temporary problem recently. So this is something that we brought up regarding the kernel live patch test that are currently scheduled.
And you know what? Some of them actually, they say skip, but actually they passed, and they say obsolete because the new build have a trigger until while or something. I don't remember which one of them is it, but
that would be curious to find. If you have examples like this, then
it was, yeah, I can do
normally
it.
only the scheduled ones should be obsoleted.
Only?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that of course done ones should not be overridden. If they're running one, then they should not be aborted.
I don't know, because I like many groups now. I just took one random, but
yeah.
If you go to
let me
I need to find it.
So let me be blunt. Okay, if it would actually matter that tests are not running because there would not be enough resources for the process to make a decision if builds can be released or not, then I would say we would address that problem really soon. Unfortunately, in many kind of processes, only the number of fails are relevant. So let's say only 4 pass, like here. So you actually do have a lot of loss of test coverage, but unfortunately, problem is that people would say like, yeah, there's no failed, we can release, right? If the decision process would account for not less passed than the last time, then it would look different, and I'm sure we would address that problem. Or, you would address that problem in that context.
Okay, Oli, I cannot agree here. I have to say this is not true. I mean, during the decision process, at least for me, it is the fact is that I'll also look at how many are skipped and how long have they been skipped. But we are here in the early alpha phase. Okay, yeah, I don't know for maintenance. I don't know for
exactly.
Or yeah, I don't know. But for product QA, I mean, I don't care at the moment if there's a lot of skip test cases, but definitely during the end of the development. And for critical milestone, it's relevant how many are skipped.
Yes, I agree. In this context, certainly, then it's a more diligent and careful decision. But it's still manual. And what I mean here is updates. With updates, the workload is above what could be managed by human reviews only. This is why we have automation. And the automation only does what the process demands. And the process does not demand a number of past jobs, but it only demands no product regressions had been found, meaning we only look at failed. So I agree with you as well in that context. It is, but not everywhere. So in this example, I really think that this is a problem. But Janis, thank you still for bringing that up, because that is that's a tricky decision. I can tell you that actually in the scope of updates, meaning aggregate tests or maintenance tests, I did propose to not obsolete older builds, but let them finish with the according prioritization to say, well, we still favor newer builds, right? But we still want to have a consistent overview of the old builds. But, the opinions of different people differ. So far, we have not agreed to let them finish, I can share you the merge request later if you like. Okay. Any last minute questions, topics, or points you want to bring up?
Yeah, I want to add more onto this topic about the priorities.
Oh yeah, sure.
There is another, let's say, dimension of this problem which was not raised. Is exactly about these negative values. I have idea where they're coming from. They're coming from the uncertainty of the people, what each value actually means. Yeah. Because sometimes people want to say, okay, I need this job to run now. Yes. And then they start to think, what's the minimum value? And this is, I think that in the future, these negative values will even raise. because people seen like, okay, I seen some jobs which have minus 20.
Yeah.
So let me put minus 30 to be sure that my will be the first
one. I can do that here.
Yeah, so it's like, and it will keep go further and further. So, and the only solution which I see here that we should come up from the free scope of any value to the some like predefined like now first priority, second priority, third priority. This would be the solution for this problem. Like real time and then some lower priorities. This would at least calm down this race for the lowest value.
Proposal. Honestly, right now, I don't actually see the problem. I mean, if I do that here because I'm really interested in one specific job, yeah,
but
that won't impact much, right?
Yeah, once again, the problem is that even if I put this minus 50, I am not sure that my job is in the first place. Because I don't know if there is some other guy who put minus 70.
Right.
So what value I should put to be sure that it's the lowest one?
A good point. So I'm actually curious. Let me force refresh the page. And it still doesn't show up on the top. So it would be, you know, you could think about drag and drop. I could like drag it to the top. That would make it obvious, right?
Yeah, but keeping in mind the amount of jobs in OSD, sometimes it could be some crazy task where you need to...
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't want to remove that plus minus field, so it would be interesting to see if I change that value, that I more easily see now what's the current relation to the others. Am I already on place 1 or something like this, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah, interesting idea. I think I will take some notes regarding rethinking the priority values. Okay, so Anton Papas raised hand, would like to speak on.
I'm not sure if I understood the problem correctly, but if it's about manually edited priorities and somebody has an urgent job and he just reduces to get to the front, a good thing to do, and in general, is to where there are editable settings, to show who last edited the setting, so that you can ask him why he edited that setting.
Yep.
I mean, you can search for stuff in the log, in the audit log, but this is, I'm just saying, for quality of life.
Yep.
And it's something that OpenQA already knows.
Yes, correct. For good reasons, not every user has access to such values, but in general, we would have run into this problem. Okay, cool. So let's stop here. Just an outlook to next week. I hope that this time I'm right. So next week should be the 24th of September, and then the topic would be scripting OpenQA from top to bottom from Chris and Felix.
Yes, I'm also hopeful that this time there's nothing getting in the way of that session.
Okay, great. So then thank you all for attending and see you again next time.